All right, Pablo. Just thoughts.
Again, I think every match we play in this league is difficult. I think we found a good recipe in that we really focus on ourselves and what we need to do to continue to improve. San Diego's a fantastic team. They're going through a bit of a patch at the moment, but they got quality players that can make the difference in any game, as they've proven over the course of the last, whatever it's been, 16 months of their integration into the league. So I anticipate a hard fought match and one that's going to be, determined in transition moments, as was our last game against them in San Diego. So really good team. We've got to be up for a challenge to continue our run of form.
How are the guys feeling right now overall? I mean, such a great start to the season here. I imagine practice and all that's got to be high intensity.
Yeah, it's yeah. You bring up a great point. Winning is a secret sauce. And it allows you to communicate messages clearly. It allows you to have a very competitive training environment where everyone wants to make sure that they're the ones that are maintaining and increasing the standard. And again, I couldn't be more proud of the group that we have, the culture that we've created here, and it's been a real joy. And so I think the one thing I don't have to ask is give 100% every day. These guys are doing it because they feel it, and they also feel that we have something special brewing with this group.
Undefeated at home so far this season. Two big home games over the next 8 days for you guys. I guess what's the opportunity in front of you over this next week or so?
Yeah, again, I think it's we talk about it before every home game that it's a special moment. I think going into the season, no one really gave us a chance this year, and I think that is a great impetus for us to make sure that we continue with the type of start that we have to games at home, bringing the fans into the game, being electric in the way we play, being very front footed, and creating good opportunities to score goals and then scoring the goals. And I think, with these two teams, they're going to be difficult, but both these teams, I think, offer opportunities in transition. And that's one area of our game that we've improved drastically this year. And, we'll have to continue to exploit in these next two matches to be able to get good results.
Some of the guys at the end of last season were pretty open about their overall disappointment, I think, with some of the home results, a couple drop points here and there, that kind of thing. Was that an emphasis coming into this year to figure out to kind of shore up sort of what made this place so special, bringing other teams up to altitude, that kind of thing, to kind of
Yeah.
turn AFF back into a force?
Yeah, I don't think it was a deliberate home or away. I think it was more like, how do we improve our overall football? And then naturally, you're going to get an advantage at home, whether you're at altitude or not, just based on the fan support. The 12th man is going to be huge. And so how do we become a better team, whether we're home or away, to really incite the fans to be a part of the experience, to use them as someone to lean on when moments are tough during moments in games at home. So I think it was more of a big picture perspective as to how we are going to do that, and it wasn't just at home, but it was home and away. And I think when you get one win at home, I think our first game was against Seattle, then the belief sets in, the confidence sets in, our quality sets in, and then it really is the little snowball that starts rolling down the hill that inspires the group and adds belief in the group.
Looked like there's a pretty full group out there today, as full as it's been in a while. The
Mhm.
guys working their way back in and everything. Has there already been some thought put into, I mean, with 3 games in the next 9 days or whatever it is, and into realizing that, like, hey, there's probably going to be a need for some squad rotation and guys are going to get minutes and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. Again, the way I talk about any game is the most important one is the one right before us. And I think this week is really unique. Where using a 3-game week, it's 7 days in between the three. Here we have 8. That allows pretty good recovery between the games. So what I don't want to do as a coach is make promises that I can't keep, right? So I think it's important that we approach this game right, and then we'll have 3 days before the next game, which allows most of the guys to recover. And then again, we have Jay Glad coming back into the group hopefully tomorrow, which will be really good for us, because and that's kind of the decision as well. We don't know exactly how we'll go this weekend until we know exactly who's available. But I think we'll just take it one game at a time. There's been guys like Vic, for example, who hasn't been getting a good run of games, who will more than likely get a great run this week. He's been really sharp in training. And so the one thing about this group is the guys that haven't been getting a lot of minutes, like Alex, for example, last game, hadn't gotten a run in quite some time, stepped in and did a great job in the absence of Wanma. And I think, you watch teams in all these different sports, it's rarely about the first 11. It's really about the rest of the guys coming in when there's injuries, when there's suspensions, when there's all these different things that you can't prepare for, but are ready to come in. And I think that's what's really unique about this group.
Pablo, coming off of a bye week and being able to get another chance to see the San Diego roster in action and then see another red card coming out of McVay, how does that adjust your training coming into this week?
Well, again, I think it's we're using a lot of our plans going to San Diego, and a big part of that was how do we defend against a team that really prides himself on being an attacking team and creating a lot of opportunities in those attacking moments and then breaking teams down. So that's really our blueprint as to their players getting red cards. That's a part of a game. But again, I think when you're constantly threatening their back line, you're going to ask a lot of questions of their center backs. And playing in a back four, they're going to have to shift from sideline to sideline. And so if we can have penetrating runs that are asking a lot of questions, I think one will ask, they'll find themselves in challenges that they probably won't want to make. And also we'll have space behind their back line to try to exploit. And so I think between those two things, given the way they play and what we've seen, unless they change when they come here, is we're expecting a team that's going to be very dogmatic in the way they want to play. And so the onus is on us to be able to thwart that, but then come up with a solution as to how we're going to score goals. And I think our last game, we left a couple on the table. And not only that, they made a couple goal line saves. The goalkeeper played extremely well. So I feel like if we're the best version of ourselves, we'll have opportunities to capitalize on their back line.
Thank you.
Pablo, we've talked a lot about playing on the front foot, being aggressive. The SKC match was the one where it felt like not only was RSL creating chaos, but they were controlling it, not being controlled by it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that as a next step for this group?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think if you go back to the beginning of the season, I think there was a lot of chaos and it wasn't a lot of us controlling it, which makes it, again, difficult to understand the moments, and we've talked about this, of when to put your foot on it and when to attack the back line, that where you have numbers up or even numbers where understanding, because again, it's when you talk about tactics, it's really not contextual. I guess what I'm saying is game state isn't a part of that equation when we talk about game plans, right? And so as the hardest thing to do is manage games and manage moments. And so if the game is really, really transitional and we're not reaping the benefits of it, we want the game to be a bit more controlled. And so now we've been working on, again, the attacking side of the game, the build part of the game, to be able to then be a complete team. I think if you're very one-dimensional in the way you play, it's very easy for teams to scout you, prepare for you. When you're good in all phases, it's very difficult for teams to understand where they're going to get hurt by you. And so I think for us, the KC was a good example of that. And now we want to turn those opportunities into goals. But if it's not, we want to make sure that if the game is chaotic, it's because we're down and we want the game to be chaotic, not because we're winning and we want the game to be chaotic.
Okay. And then RSL and San Diego have similar approaches with roster. A lot of young players. You're the top, both in the top three teams for youth minutes so far in the season. You also both want to play with the ball. What are you seeing as far as what's working for your team, turning that youth into winning matches as opposed to losing composure and taking these red cards like Josh?
Yeah, well, I think I'll only speak to our group. I think the most important thing for us is that we create an environment for these players to thrive, and that I know that sounds, far off from probably what you expected, but I think it's really about the ethos of the club, the experienced players understanding the club and who we are and the way we want to move forward, and so then they create these, I call them pillars within the team. These experienced players that these younger guys can lean on in tough moments, and you got to have that in order to be to bring on younger players. If your whole team is young, then it's essentially the blind chasing the blind in difficult moments. There's no one to look up to and go, hey, just give me the ball, I'll control it, right? Everyone's just kind of looking around for the next guy to do that. And so I think we did a good job this year of bringing in some really good pillars that creates a safe space for these young players to be who they are and not try to fit into the mold, but be creative if you're an attacking players, and I think that, Aiden has done that. Gozo continues to do that. Sergi has done that. Luka Moisa, when he's in there, has done that. Griffin has come in and played his own style. And so I think it's a very thoughtful, deliberate roster build to be able to create an environment for these young guys to flourish.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Cool.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you.